Beyond the Black Box by Annie Sammis. When a plane crash occurs over a body of water and the black box cannot be recovered, the human wreckage tells the story of what happened. Since dead bodies float to the surface, recovering them is much easier than trying to find plane pieces in the water. TWA Flight 800 was going to Paris on July 17, 1996. Sadly, it never met its destination because minutes after takeoff, the plane blew apart. Investigators were trying to figure out what made this nightmare a reality. To determine if there was a fire, and if so, where it came from, the bodies were examined for burns. It was discovered that only the backs of the passengers had minor burns, but the seats were burnt. The conclusion was that the fire came from the back, and the passengers were ejected from the seats before the flames reached their skin. Normally, broken ribs are minor injuries, but during a high-velocity impact, they become sharp, jagged weapons that pierce and slice what lies within them. For instance, the heart, lungs, and aorta. All the passengers had blunt chest injuries. 99% had multiple broken ribs, 88% had lacerated lungs, and 73% had injured aortas. It is unlikely that they had a whole lot of awareness because they were severely traumatized. With car crash survivors, they tend to say they knew what was going on, but they really didn't know what was going on. This is generally what would be going through the minds of the passengers. After critical pieces of the plane were recovered, a final determination was made on how the plane blew apart. Sparks from frayed wiring had ignited fuel vapors, causing an explosion of one of the fuel tanks. In another investigation, they were trying to figure out where the plane had broken apart. They realized that when falling from several feet, one's clothing would be knocked right off their body. It was discovered that the clothed passengers were seated in the back, while the naked ones were seated up front. Therefore, the plane had broken apart near the back of the plane. To determine if extreme water impact was the cause of death of the passengers, guinea pigs were used to test the theory. They were projected belly first about 2.5 feet through the air before hitting the water. The lungs of the passengers and of the guinea pigs were similar, which proved the theory. If a plane is traveling 300 miles per hour and breaks apart, it loses its aerodynamic capability. The engines are still providing thrust, but the plane is not stable. Therefore, within about 5 to 6 seconds, the plane is in chunks. When falling, the maximum speed that a human can fall into water and still have a good shot of living is 70 miles per hour. The terminal velocity of a falling body is 120 miles per hour, which can be reached in only 500 feet.